people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news. Ow!
Okay, we'll start with this. This past weekend in Croatia, Ivana Habazin became a two-time welterweight champion, winning the full WBC title and the interim version of the WBA title. I'm not sure why there would be an interim version of the WBA title in what is a full WBC title fight. I guess the WBA are officially going back on their word. Their effort to minimize the number of titles they have at a given weight. They are mass-producing trinket titles again. What we're seeing, they manufactured a trinket title for the Choi versus Kamara fight in South Korea. They're manufacturing a trinket title for the David Morrell versus Radovaj Kalajdzic fight at light heavyweight. And they must have manufactured an interim title for this fight. For the Ivana Habazin versus Kinga Magyar fight, the fight that Ivana Habazin won by way of a points decision this past weekend, Ivana sports a professional record of 22 wins with 5 losses, no draws, 7 knockouts, having only ever been knocked out once in 27 professional contests. Ivana is a veteran of the sport by now. She's a veteran who's been around a long time. She used to be IBF champion at this weight. Now she is full WBC champion. She will fast become a person of interest to the major promotional outfits. She could fast become a person of interest to the winner of Lauren Price versus Jessica McCaskill, or Natasha Jonas versus Michaela Mayer 2. Their rematch, she could become a person of interest to Sandy Ryan. Sandy's the only one who's free. Out of all these aforementioned names who are set to be fighting 4 titles in the very near future, of all of them, Sandy is the only one who's free. The only one who is not otherwise preoccupied and available to fight in the near future. That you could do a Sandy Ryan versus Ivana Habazin fight in the summer months. Unification match. Because Jessica McCaskill, the reigning WBA champion, she's en route to fight Lauren Price. Natasha Jonas is en route to fight Michaela Mayer for a second time. They're busy. Sandy isn't. Sandy's hot. It's true. So you could make a fight between them. The real value in Ivana Habazin winning a welterweight title, a full title, at this time is she can always auction it off to the highest bidder. Being honest with you, I have nothing against Ivana Habazin, but I think she loses that belt to any one of the other somebodies at the weight. Any one of them. So it's more about who's willing to pay her the most money to come over to their side of things and fight to defend her belt or unify it. Sandy will fuck her up. Sandy Ryan is coming off a lopsided win over former champion Terry Harpier. She beat the brakes off of Terry. I think she'd beat the brakes off of Ivana Habazin. Another performance like that, where she dominates and overpowers her opponent, will further increase Sandy's profile. Sandy is fast becoming a favorite in the women's welterweight division because of her aggressive style. She's big, she's strong, and she fights that way. I wouldn't mind seeing a fight between Sandy and Ivana. I have no illusions about how that fight would go. I think Sandy would wear her out. Matchroom would have to pay to play. They would have to, because the other 2 titles are on the boxer side of things, so there is a unique opportunity here for them to bring another one of those alphabet titles to their own side of things. The political boundary lines that divide the sport and determine what fights happen and what fights don't. It's not likely that Sandy gets Lauren Price in the ring. No. If she becomes champion. It's not likely she gets Natasha, but she can get Ivana. Go get her. Ivana just fought, so ideally you could see a Ryan versus Habazin fight somewhere towards the end of the summer months, maybe late July or August. Yeah. Eddie Hearn, he better get on it, because that's the way it is. In men's super lightweight news, Derek James on the heels of his Chargers' big win. Ryan Gersha. His big win over Devin Haney this weekend. Derek says it will be hard for Devin Haney to recover from a beating like that. He did take a beating. Some likened it to the beating that Errol Spence Jr. received last year.
Errol's was worse.
As far as lopsided beatings go, Errol's beating was worse, but for me, this one was more surprising. I expected Errol to get his ass kicked, but I didn't expect Devin to get his ass kicked.
Most people didn't.
I feel accomplished. James told the media immediately after the fight, I feel like I did my job, and that's what it's all about. I think it would have been the most satisfying win of my training career. You know what? I'm going to say it was great, because I don't want to put anyone's situation over anyone else. For me to get to this level, I did it myself. A Hall of Fame trainer didn't teach me. Nobody taught me anything. I pushed myself to this level. I'm an underdog anyway, even now. The level that I'm on, they're still counting me out. It's not wrong. After what happened to Errol Spence Jr. in the Crawford fight, what happened to Jermell Charlo in the Canelo Alvarez fight, what was once thought of as the trainer of the year and one of the best trainers in the sport, that air quickly dissipated.
Went away.
After Errol Spence loses and Jermell Charlo loses and Anthony Joshua jumps ship.
Who would have thought it'd be Ryan that gets Derek James back in the spotlight?
It's good for Ryan, James said. I'm happy for him. He really beat him up bad. Did you see Haney's swollen face? It was crazy how dominant he was. I didn't believe it. I think it would have been better for Haney to get knocked out early because it's going to be hard to recover from getting beat up like that. He's a good fighter. He'll be back. He's still young. He can be hungry. He's 25. The game plan was always about taking everything from Haney. Once I saw Ryan bring the jab and walk to him, he retreated and opened Haney up.
What it was.
Ryan is a little bit taller and longer than Devin Haney. Even if Devin's got more reach, Ryan has more height.
Right?
At 135 and 140, Devin Haney has grown accustomed to being the taller, longer guy in the ring who can box comfortably from the outside. With Ryan, that created a unique situation where you're not the bigger guy in the ring.
The taller guy.
Boxing from the outside would have proved a bit more difficult with Ryan because he does have height and he does have speed. So Devin elected to come forward.
Close the distance.
He was essentially drawn out of his comfort zone where normally he hangs back. He tried to close the distance on Ryan, which left him open for punches.
Punches he can't take because he's chinny.
For all of Ryan's erratic behavior in the build-up, he delivered on the night. But the no-nonsense Texan wants the 25-year-old Ryan Garcia to dial down his antics, man. I hope so. I'm not into that, James said. I'm on the low. I don't really move like that. I don't really like the negativity. My daughters are in school, and kids be talking to them about whatever Ryan is doing and this and that. I told him that not only does it affect you, it affects everybody else.
Strange bedfellows, Derek James and Ryan Garcia.
In this digital era, this social media generation, one as disingenuous as Ryan Garcia is a lot more appealing than a more consummate professional in Devin Haney. That's why Ryan has always been a lot more popular than Devin Haney.
To the casual audience.
But not just Devin. Ryan is in fact more popular than many other fighters who are more serious professionals, serious and consummate professionals than he is. Fighters that are in fact more accomplished because his dysfunction speaks to the American populace more than their professionalism. In this era where your average youngster doesn't really feel validated or seen unless they have a bunch of people following them on social media and carrying on the way that Ryan carries on, making a spectacle of himself. This is what passes for mass appeal and appealing to the masses. I can only imagine how a 52-year-old Derek James feels seeing Ryan carry on the way he's carried on.
It's gotta be weird.
You're so obviously the opposite of what you'd want in a fighter if you're a trainer.
He's not consistent. He's not disciplined.
Contract to fight at 140 pounds just for you to decide you're not going to make it. You're going to come in 3 pounds over. While a good chunk of the boxing community at large doesn't seem to notice, they don't seem to care. Their knee-jerk reactions and being slaves to the moment, all they can talk about is how he beat Devin up.
It's gotta be weird for Derek working with somebody like this.
Peculiar that it ended up being Ryan Garcia that brought Derek James and his ability to train fighters back into the spotlight. That it wasn't Errol Spence, that it wasn't Jermell Charlo, that it wasn't somebody else who's done more in the sport than Ryan. Boxing, in its way, has its way of surprising you, surprising me, surprising us all.
Derek James must have been surprised.
Whatever him and Ryan were working on, for however long they were working on it, underneath it all, I think Derek expected Ryan to lose.
Yeah.
I don't think he expected Ryan to put a beating on Devin like the one that he put on him. For Devin, it's a long road back because taking a beating like that in a fight that you are so widely favored to win, it can act as a splinter in your mind.
Devin has fought on big stages before.
The George Kambosos fight in Australia, that was a big stage. A lot of people showed up for that fight. The Lomachenko fight.
He's fought on big stages.
Despite Ryan not being as accomplished as all of those fighters, there is a legitimate argument that this was the biggest because this fight is getting a lot more attention in the aftermath than those fights did.
You look at the metrics on YouTube for the highlights.
And how many people are talking all over social media about how Ryan, quite unexpectedly, beat the brakes out of young Devin Haney. Oscar De La Hoya has shut down any requests for a rematch, saying, "We are moving on. Ryan destroyed him. On to the next."
I wouldn't mind seeing a rematch.
But I don't know that a second fight would go any differently because Devin's issue is not a strategy issue. It's a physicality issue. He can't take a punch. And if he were to go in there with Ryan for a second time now, Ryan would go in there with the added chip on his shoulder that he knows he can hurt Devin. He knows he can drop him. He knows he can come quite close to stopping him. An added bit of confidence that, you know what, maybe it wasn't all the way there in the first fight, but it would be in a second.
As soon as he let his hands go, that's as soon as it took him to hurt Devin.
I don't actually know what Devin's gonna do on the heels of this devastating loss. If he can't get Ryan back in the ring, it may be that much harder to rebuild and regain his confidence and his belief, his sense of self.
A beating like that can leave you changed.
Forever. I mean, think about it. Errol Spence Jr. still hasn't come back from the beating that he took way back there in July of last year. We're a lot closer to July of this one, and he's not back yet.
How long will it take before we see Devin in the ring again?
God, it had to be hard for Bill to see his son like that. It's got to be hard for Devin trying to recover, and how merciless the boxing community at large can be.
Kicking him when he's down.
Though at the same time, they know why they chose to fight Ryan Garcia. They know what that was all about. In the build-up, Ryan seemed like low-hanging fruit. A guy who's not that accomplished a boxer, not that good, but he's quite popular, and the virtue of fighting him is his popularity. It was a cherry pick gone wrong.
I didn't think Ryan was a great fighter before the fight. Oddly enough, I don't think he's a great fighter now.
I just think Devin is chinny. He's chinny as a result of boiling down to weights he really shouldn't be making because it's taking something out of him each time that he does it. And it finally blew up in his face.
We talked about this.
It was in reference to a different fighter. It was in reference to David Benavidez and how I'm not one for pointing the finger and accusing any one fighter of weight bullying based on what they rehydrate to, because that's the kind of thing that works up until it doesn't. You can get away with it for a while.
But it catches up. It always catches up.
Like it caught up to Jarrett Hurd at 154. Here you have a guy who maybe walks around at 200 pounds, boils down to 154 for a fight. You can do that for a while, but after a while, it's going to change you. I think that's what happened to Devin. Boiling down to 35, boiling down to 40. He looked gaunt. He looked gray at the weigh-in.
This doesn't look like this was an easy cut for him. While you're boiling down to 140, Ryan's not making the weight at all.
You say it's 3 pounds. It's just 3 pounds. But having to cut that 3 pounds could be all the difference.
That one guy did and one guy didn't.
How much of yourself are you leaving in the gym to shed those last 3 pounds, and how does that affect your punch resistance? Ryan looked huge in there.
And strong.
And so, here we are.
But then he's not really in your division. That's
He said he's going up to 47 or whatever. I mean, bro, like, I respect him. I'm not gonna lie, bro. I respect him because he's shifting boxing right now. Like Ryan Garcia is shifting boxing. He's not fighting for belts. He's making a lot of money. So why even care about the belt stuff? Like, cause you making so much money. He didn't even care. He was like, man, I'm gonna have that. You're not gonna have this advantage over me, because the thing is, like, that weight shit, it really make a difference. They said weight divisions exist for a reason, right? So with him, he was like, man, Tank fucked over him because Tank made him stay at a certain weight. So Tank did that shit to him, and he did that shit to Devin. So he learned about that. He did this shit to Devin. And really, and to bring my shit up, like, Devin kind of did to me. In my contract, he wasn't supposed to be over a certain weight, and I can't prove that. I can't say that he was did the IVs and stuff like that, but he did get real fucking big. He was like from 140 to 166. That's a big difference, and usually you don't get like that without an IV. And in my contract, he wasn't supposed to do that, and I can't prove he did or not. I don't know, but whatever it is, but still, he was way bigger, and it's like a karma thing. You know, that's what I look at. It's like it's like a karma thing. Ryan did it to him. Like the same shit he did to me, Ryan did that shit to him, and on a way worse level. You know,
And Tank did it to him.
Exactly. All that shit, all that karma shit. Everybody, yeah, right. It's like Tank did it to you, Devin did to me. Now Ryan did to you. You know, Tank did to fucking Ryan. Ryan did to Devin. Devin did to me. You know, all the weight shit. You know, it's like it's all about the advantages, and like every little advantage you can get, that's what they do. But at the end of the day, karma's real, bro. I just feel like that karma shit is real, and that's just how it goes.
Before the next generation of boxers get it in their head that they can maneuver how Ryan Garcia has been maneuvering, that he doesn't subject himself to weight classes and even fighting for alphabet titles, even fighting for belts, need I remind you that in order to do this, you need to have Ryan's popularity to be successful. To make the money that he has been making, you need to have the mass appeal that Ryan has. And he didn't get that in the ring, he got it on social media. So not every boxer,
Everybody's not going to be able to pull this off.
where you're not fighting for alphabet titles, you're not even that accomplished a fighter, but you're still making vast sums of money. The case of Ryan Garcia is a very unique case where his fame was not acquired within the sport, but outside of it. Though the vast majority of fighters will have to try and acquire notoriety through more conventional means, because this isn't a one-size-fits-all answer for everyone.
The Americans are just throwing shit at a wall.
Hoping something sticks. What Ryan Garcia did should not be celebrated. That this guy isn't subject to the same rules and regulations as everyone else because he regularly circumvents them by not fighting for belts, by not fighting for titles. As much as we don't like the sanctioning bodies,
They still help to give the sport some structure.
it's not a perfect system, but it's the only one we've got. What Ryan is doing, he's only doing because he's in a unique position to do it. You don't want the next generation of fighters to have this perverse vision of the sport that Ryan has.
Oh, so you don't want to be a champion, and you probably won't want to fight other champions either, that if they're risky,
Why do it? I mean, the implications of a younger generation of fighters taking their cues from Ryan Garcia, of all people.
this is a role model.
So they're talking about him for dicking around in a build-up of the fight, smoking and drinking alcohol, not making weight, not fighting for titles.
You think that's setting an example?
A good example. This is good to you.
The American boxing scene is a fucking joke.
These shenanigans are not necessary across the pond in what is a more fertile and vibrant boxing scene here today. They're not necessary in the Far East, where the sport is regarded with a lot more veneration.
In the UK, in Japan,
Boxing in America has become a perverse version of itself to where they don't even want it to be a sport anymore.
Regis Prograis' comments have left us with a lot to think about.
Should Ryan Garcia really be praised for what he did?
And is this karma coming back to bite Devin Haney in the ass?
Two things can be true at the same time, though I don't know that Ryan Garcia maneuvering the way he's maneuvering is anything to applaud or anything to aspire to.